Man never expected that after finally reaching the max level and returning to the surface, what awaited him was a hometown that had long been destroyed. This pushed Light's anger to its peak. He swore to make everyone who had once plotted against him fall into hell. The first thing he needed to do was figure out what the so-called Overlord actually was. The higher-ups suspected he was the Overlord, which was why they had acted so ruthlessly. So Light decided to wear a mask to hide his true power and head to the nearest city to become an adventurer. This way he could more easily gather information. To build his reputation quickly, Light brought two attention-grabbing companions, a golden knight and a dark elf. Though both were only level 5000, their presence would leave a deep impression and accelerate his rise to fame. After quickly registering as adventurers, Light booked an entire second floor of an inn. Fearing that high-ranking officials from various countries would notice him, he placed a 3-layer defense soundproofing magic interference and detection prevention. Only after confirming it was safe did he prepare to rest. At this point the dark elf expressed his confusion. He didn't understand why Light had to act personally on the surface. Even with such strength, danger could still lurk. He could just stay in the abyss of Naraku and issue commands from there. Light, hearing this, became somewhat furious. Are you trying to take away my right to seek revenge? The dark elf immediately knelt and apologized, realizing his overstep. Fortunately, the golden knight intervened. Even men, despite knowing something is dangerous, still have things they must do, like exacting revenge with their own hands. The next day Light went to the nearest dungeon, a place where the dwarves and elves intersect. Because of this, many people came to explore the dungeon. Light and his two companions queued up normally, but a member of the elf race cut in line ahead of him. The ones being cut off were a pair of human adventurers. As the weakest race, they didn't dare complain, but Light couldn't stand it. He had once been bullied like that, so he stood up and told the elf to queue properly. This, however, angered the elf. How dare a lowly human lecture me, the elf said, drawing his sword. Fortunately, the elf's healer stopped him just in time, preventing a conflict right at the dungeon entrance. After a long wait, Light finally entered the dungeon. His two companions were also amazed. It was their first time in a dungeon outside Naraku, and they had heard this one was enormous. When they reached the first level, it felt like an entirely different world. Although the first level was for beginners, Light still didn't let his guard down. He took out 3 SSR cards, Eagle Eye, Hidden Presence, and Flight. With these they could bypass monsters and head directly to the next level. Meanwhile, below the forest that Light was flying over, the elf from earlier was still holding a grudge. He was the heir to the Overlord bloodline of heroes, and the youngest genius knight of the Elven Kingdom. Yet he had just been scolded by a weak human. His healer advised him not to be angry. Their target was the giant on the 3rd level. Once they obtained the materials, they could break through the level cap. After all, the elves had reached level 1500, and breaking through that limit was very difficult. However, neither of them expected that while they were still dealing with small monsters on the 1st level, Light had already taken care of all the giants on the 3rd level. Their mission only required them to prove they had reached the 3rd level. So after collecting the giant's magic stones, they were preparing to return. But on the way back, Light spotted 4 familiar figures. It was the human party from earlier who had cut in line. They were cooperating smoothly and had easily taken care of the goblins on the 1st level. Light went over to greet them and warned them that monsters were approaching nearby. Just after he spoke, a large group of hungry wolves surged out of the forest. The 4 adventurers thought they would face a tough battle, but Light calmly said the real monsters are still behind them. When they turned around, they saw a 4-armed mantis and felt utterly hopeless. How could they possibly defeat that?